If it's just like circling. Well, we got our guy Coach out tonight, so I'll just start the show off with an all right. I can't do it like he can. He sounds like Matthew McConaughey. I sound like somebody who's kind of confused about if they're Southern or Northern when I do that. How are we doing tonight, Joe? How's it going, buddy? You ready to do some dash of DFS?
Let's do it. I always feel like it's a nice treat when it's actually a decent matchup for the Thursday night game too. So I'm a little extra excited with Rams Seahawks tonight.
Yeah, man, this game never disappoints. You know, these guys are always just on top of things. It's just always such a fun game, always high scoring. This is going to be awesome. And of course, I say that we'll probably have like a 3-0 game or something crazy like that. Both defenses are going to show up, but let's hope not. We'll just kick this off right here. We're going to get you guys know how to listen to us. We got Apple Podcast, YouTube, Podbean, Facebook, Spotify. Dude, look up Toilets to Titles. If you're not buying toilets, you're in the right place. Hit the like and subscribe button. Give us those 5-star reviews. Even if it's a bad review, give us a 5-star review. Don't be a jerk, but tell us what you want us to improve on that thing. And we'll get you going. We'll get you satisfied if that works. But never leave 1-star reviews for people. That's just mean. That's just a rude thing to do. Always go to toiletstitles.com. Make sure you get on our Patreon as well. I think it's $3 a month. Gets you the group chat. $5 you get early access to the waiver wire episodes. You can enter into our Frankensteak Listener League, and you get the T2 team group chat also. And for $10, you can get one-on-one roster analysis. That means you can get with me. I can sit there and tell you exactly what's up, what's down, and how we're doing. And we can get you set up and week to week. It's also a free entry into the Frankensteak Listener League, and also the early access to the waiver wires and the T2T group chat. And I think that's about it. So why don't you go ahead and fire us up first, Joe? Who are we playing tonight? Who are we going to start? Who are the guys we cannot fade on this Thursday night game?
Late breaking news, Chris Carson's out. So, if you're looking for a cheap flex, Alex Collins at running back, he got some carries and some points last week. Certainly looks like he's going to get more tonight. Is he a must play? No. Is he a good cheap flex option? Potentially. But then, with the core of these teams, Cooper Kupp's had a phenomenal year. Last week, finally, he had a human week. I see him going right back to where he was those first couple of weeks. Cheers, by the way. Seahawks defense. We all know about the Seahawks pass defense. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods looks like he's going to get some more targets according to McVay this week. So those Ram wideouts are poised for a big one tonight.
Yep. Nope. I like it. I like it a lot. I sure hope we see some Cup action. I really hope we see a rare appearance by our guy, Robert Woods, because, man, he has just been quiet all season. He's so good at what he does that it really kind of strikes me as crazy that Stafford hasn't got him involved. I feel like that's any minute now. I feel like this might be the night. Way we got Giant Opinion Sports saying, what up? What's going on, man? How's New York up there? A little sad, probably looking at this B right there. I know I'm giving all the Yankee fans as much trash as I can, which is I really can't this year. I'm kind of playing bandwagon. I haven't really paid attention to baseball. When the Red Sox traded off Mookie Betts, I'm just
you guys were supposed to be rebuilding this year. So honestly, to be where you are with the team that you have and the youth that you guys have, minus a couple guys, you guys are in a good spot long term. You need a little starting pitching, but yeah, you know what? I'm just jealous that you guys got a game tonight and we don't.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I have a feeling Tampa's going to make quick work out of them. Unfortunately, Tampa Bay. I mean, ever since I moved here, that's all these guys have done is win every single Super Bowl, Stanley Cup. They would have had the World Series last year, I think, if they leave Benny Snell in. Well, we'll move on. Here we go, because this is not baseball. This is football. First off, we're going to kick off with the quarterback fades of the week. You shall not pass. And that's Gandalf coming in to say, you shall not pass. I'm fading on Tyler Heineke. I know he's been really, really good. as of late this year. He's been on fire, really. I mean, all you have to do is throw it to Terry McLaurin, and life is good, right? But he's got the New Orleans Saints, who are just not allowing anything to happen. So I'm fading him. And then Justin Fields, man, I love to see him coming out against for Chicago, and he's got that starting role. But that guy's still learning. He's still got a lot of adapting to do. He's still got a lot of things. I'm fading him this week. That Vegas defense is no joke. Those guys are actually really, really, really tough to beat. He stopped watching Yankee games 3 months ago. Dude, I'm telling you, like 2 years, when they sent off Mookie Betts, I'm like, I'm done with baseball for a while. That really, really made me mad. When Coach is out tonight, it's a happy anniversary to him. It's him and his wife's anniversary. Yep, we will drink to that.
9 years.
And Yep. Salud. And so I'm going to go ahead and do his non-quarterback fades of the week. We got Najee Harris versus Denver. He says Najee has been getting it done, but this week he faces that number 1 rushing defense in Denver. Yeah, buddy. It's going to be the toughest test to date, and I'm going to try to avoid him too. I think that's going to be a real bad time to be a Steeler this weekend. Kenny Golladay at Dallas. Trevon Diggs isn't exactly an eraser, but he's getting pretty close. I believe he matches up with Golladay, and it'll be Daniel Jones' best interest to look elsewhere if he wants to avoid turnovers, which Daniel Jones probably won't. He likes to hit those 1-2 guys, and especially Sterling Shepard still looking out. I definitely agree with that fade. We got Jeff Machia coming in. He says, bye week's coming up. Things are poised to get interesting on the waiver wire. Any guys in the background to look at?
Well, I mean, I'll play the injury card this week, right? Let's take advantage of it, and you can start with the giant wide receivers because Shepard and Slayton are both questionable. Galladay's questionable too, but he's going to play. But Kadarius Toney really had his first coming out party last week for the Giants. 9 targets. I think it was 6 or 7 catches. So he's definitely somebody that's on the waiver wire in most leagues that could start adding value immediately. He's going to get the looks and probably the targets this week. And then we were talking about it before we went on the air in Atlanta. Ridley's out. Gage is out. So the fad that is the Cordell Patterson year will continue. But I'm going to Orlando Zacchaeus, right?
Yep, Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus. That's who we were looking at too. Another guy that's definitely probably on the waiver wire that could get you double-digit points this week in a jam.
Yep, I agree. Those are both real good grabs. As far as depth moves or anything like that, I mean, we're getting pretty late. I feel like if Josh Gordon is available, he's starting to practice and things like that and starting to get in there with Kansas City. And I've said it last week on the Blitz, they are looking for somebody to throw to as a number 2 on that team. He doesn't always want to throw it to Hill. He doesn't always want, I mean, he does, but usually the defense is very well keyed in on Hill and Kelsey. So it's a little bit harder to get to those guys every single play. And if you look, he peppers Demarcus Robinson with targets. Pringle was getting them. McCole Hardman was getting them. And it just doesn't seem like those guys can do anything with it. I think that Josh Gordon might be the guy that they need, like that's going to be that change of pace receiver that can get out there and burn people. I mean, he's really fast too and still get separation, which is what he was really good at to really line them out. So keep your eye on him. Guys we're paying up for this week. Back to Coach. He's paying up for Nick Chubb. He's got the Chargers. He says the Browns will have a tough time trying to throw the ball against the Chargers, so they'll rely on the running game, which should do rather well. They need to feed Nick, and he'll have a monster outing. I can say I definitely like that. Although
Chubb's been great. He's just not getting it. Hunt's getting all those red zone carries, looks, touchdowns. That's the only aggravating thing about Chubb, but he's phenomenal from the amount of touches he's going to get, the yardage and everything like that.
Absolutely. You know, and I feel like in a negative game script, Hunt is the guy to follow there. I wanted to say Chubb and Hunt at the same time, but yeah, Hunt is the guy. It all goes together in a very poetic way. It does, but yeah, no, Hunt is the guy. I feel like to grab right there. The guys I'm paying up for this week is Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I like that stack. We were talking 8,000, 8,200 on FanDuel. I think they're gonna just go ham this week. They're due for another really big game. And I feel like Alvin Kamara breaks out this week. I feel like we finally see that touchdown. As a matter of fact, I think we see 2 out of Alvin Kamara, and he's a steal at 8,600, where you paying up to 10 grand or something like that for Christian McCaffrey, and I think 10-2 for Derrick Henry. And I feel like this guy can get you just as much production for 8,600. Who you got, Joe?
Yeah, there's definitely a few guys this week. The first one I'll go with is Austin Eckler out there for the Chargers. Last week was, he had the rushes, he had the targets, he had the receptions, he scored. So I think that train's going to keep running as it has the last couple of years, as long as he's healthy. I'm going to ride your coattails from last week. DJ Moore is just a monster in
He is
Carolina
so
right
good,
now
man.
with Darnold. I mean, you can't, watching that Thursday night game last week or a couple, whenever it was, you just can't deny what he's got with Darnold, and he's a beast. 7,900. To your point, most of those big wideouts you got to go into the 8,000s for. So I like more at 7,900. And we talked about this guy the last couple of weeks. I'm going to keep on going with him. Saquon Barkley looks to be back. Had a big game against Atlanta finally. Then last week busted out a huge touchdown run towards the end of their thrilling New York Giant first victory of the season against the Saints. He's 7,800. That's a great price for 100% healthy Saquon Barkley.
Absolutely. Yep. And that goes ahead and just puts us right into the next segment here of the riding the wave. And we've got Saquon Barkley right there. Quan has topped 20 points in each of his last two outings. He's starting to heat up. Rather just stay on the board. Let's ride that wave. The other guy, Tyreek Hill. Hill had a huge game last week, 11 for 186, 3 touchdowns. I'm counting on this thing, taking them all the way back to KC. They're against the Bills. It's going to be a tight match right there, man. There's going to be a lot of points scored. So get on that wave, get on that surfboard, boys, and let's do this. Bounce back players of the week this week. I have Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers had a really quiet outing last week. There's really, with James White on the IR and everything, in a lighter matchup this week, I feel like Mac Jones can really get things done. I feel like Jacoby Myers has just been getting peppered with targets. I don't see this week being any different. And so I'm starting him. Our man coach says CeeDee Lamb. He said he saw 5 targets, turned them into 2 receptions. He hasn't topped 10 PPR points over the last 2 weeks, and that it's going to happen, man. Especially with Amari Cooper banged up. I think CeeDee Lamb is a big play this week. Who you got, Joe? I see who you got.
I'm going to go the most obvious. Travis Kelce went 4 for 23 last week. Why is that? Because Tyreek Hill went 11 for 186 and 3 touchdowns. But, 42 points for the Chiefs last week, and Kelce went 4 for 23. This is a primetime game against the Bills. I mean, this is week 6. We have been spoiled with so many great matchups already. Obviously, Patriots Bucks last Sunday night, and this is going to be another great primetime game. Buffalo KC. Kelce's not going to throw up another dud this week. So if you can pay up for him, I definitely think Kelce hits 100 yards and a touchdown this week.
I think Coach was onto something last week with the paying up for the tight end position. I mean, it sucks paying up for that one position, but if you don't have one of those top 3 guys, you can almost count on the 3 for 33. I mean, It's almost like clockwork that's what tight ends get across the league that aren't named Kelce and Kittle. And we start talking about how good they are when that 3 for 33 and a touchdown happens. Right. Oh, this guy's amazing, man. Yeah, we need to put him in our lineup. Yep, we got 10 points out of the deal, or 13 points if you're in a PPR league. So for me, I feel like paying up for the tight end is a reasonably strong play for daily. The next one up is Diamonds in the Rough, low ownership plays. Joe, who you got for that?
So I don't know. Well, I'll give you the real low ownership play, and we just talked about him. Kadarius Toney, 5,300 on FanDuel for the Giants against the Cowboys. Again, 6 for 78 on 9 targets last week. Shepard and Slayton have not practiced yet this week. Toney's going to get looks. They're going to be in a shootout. So even if you're convinced the Giants are going to get killed this week against the Cowboys, which they may, Toney is completely poised for that trash 4 minutes left, fourth quarter touchdown. But I think he's going to get a lot of touches previous to that. Also, the other one that's on the top of my mind that I will absolutely get in my lineups, Randall Cobb. It's so funny if you think about it. Randall Cobb is literally on this team this year because they were in firestorm mode to keep Aaron Rodgers happy and get him to report. And trading for Randall Cobb was one of the things that he wanted. So they did it. 1 injury away from him being viable again. He showed it last week with Scantling out, 2 touchdowns. And he's not going to get 2 touchdowns every week, but I feel like he is going to get the targets, and that Roger loves him in the red zone. He's taken the red zone targets away from Tonyan, it looks like, so far this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been great. I grabbed Randall Cobb everywhere I could just because when Aaron Rodgers says, it's kind of like CEH. Everybody sits there and talks trash on CEH. Oh, he's terrible. I think he's having a pretty decent season for his second year because I have him as a third-year breakout, and I have ever since day one when he came into Dynasty. Him and Jonathan Taylor. I said these guys are going to take a little while to get used to the NFL, but once they do, look out. And when you got people like Patrick Mahomes saying, I want that guy, or you got people like Aaron Rodgers saying, I want that guy, those are guys that I want too, because that means that there's something there that they see that they can use to benefit their ability. So, I mean, all day long, I love Randall Cobb, man. I love Randall Cobb.
It's interesting, those two running backs you just put together, CEH and Jonathan Taylor. The frustration with them this year so far, and if you look, I really think it's schedule related too. They've both been in a lot of games where it's been high scoring shootouts, close games. Once Kansas City gets a couple of their softer games, once Indianapolis gets to Houston and Jacksonville on their schedule, those are the games where I really think you're going to see CEH and Jonathan Taylor, get those 20 touches and get in the end zone. Jonathan Taylor was a monster the second half of last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And I mean, like I said, he's getting it a little bit quicker than CEH. And again, though, I said third year on both of those guys because of the way they play football. And most of our guys like Derrick Henry's first 2 years were abysmal. I mean, they weren't bad, but they were just, and everybody always says, oh, DeMarcus Murray was running ahead of him. Well, there's a reason for that because he wasn't ready to run at the NFL level.
It's unbelievable. DeMarcus Murray was so good, and running backs, just the shelf life. It's so funny because that feels like 20 years ago. DeMarcus Murray,
right?
What was it, 5? He was in the It's amazing with running backs.
Right. Yep. It just happens so fast.
Yeah.
And it's not very long either. Jeff comes in and says, Daniel Jones has been quietly putting up a big fantasy numbers. For some reason, he doesn't. What's great is, Jeff, I have him in almost every single dynasty league I have because I've always been a Daniel Jones believer. And I've always kind of believed that they were going to get that process lined out in New York. Now, when they grabbed Saquon, yes, I was going to say DeMarco too. It's DeMarco Murray, not DeMarcus. But anyways, but yeah, when he was coming and when they grabbed Saquon, I'm like, dude, this team has the ability to be something. If they could work on a couple offensive lineman positions and then get that defense a little bit more shored up, because Giants don't really have a terrible defense.
They got to learn how to win a close game. It's just so aggravating. They cannot win a close game. The one thing with Jones from a fantasy perspective, I don't think anybody expected the rushing that he's had this year. Him and Darnold has the most QB rushing TDs so far this year, I saw, which is just a funny stat.
Dude, Darnold has been on fire. And if you were listening to Toilets to Titles at the beginning of the season, we were all about Darnold. Man, I'm telling you what, everybody was all in on Darnold because we could see this coming. We called it Gades. If you have Gades, it's really hard to win football games. And all you need to do to get Gades is has Adam Gase as your coach. And so once you get rid of the Gades and you're free from that, it's no holds barred. And there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, Daniel Jones, second highest rated quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yet there's still only one in freaking 3 or 4 or whatever.
I love it. Darnold recovered well from the mono. It was Gades. It was Gades. So now let's go ahead and schedule up to the lineups that we're playing this week. I'll go ahead and start us off. I told you I'm stacking that Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I love it. Kareem Hunt, I said negative game script. I love Kareem Hunt. Anytime we see a negative game script from Cleveland, I have a feeling against the Chargers, they're going to be seeing that. I got Kamara. I told you everything about him, and Jacoby about him. I feel like Kirk has to come back this week too. I feel like Rondell is awesome, but I feel like Christian Kirk is still the number 2 on that team and still getting the targets. Even over AJ Green, I think Christian Kirk will be our guy. I think Marquez Callaway has himself a big week this week at 5,400. I couldn't pass that up. Dalton Schultz, again, I mean, I'm talking about top 3 tight ends. Yeah, that's talking about Dalton Schultz right now because that guy's been on fuego. And then the Broncos at Pittsburgh because obvious reasons, man. Broncos and the Pittsburgh just isn't looking like Pittsburgh of old. Except Ben, he looks really old.
It's true so far.
And then we got the coaches lineup. He's got Dak. Believe it or not, Dak, he loves it. He also has that stacked up with CeeDee Lamb. Those guys are at 69, 62 respectively.
He's got Schultz too.
Yep, he also has Dalton Schultz. He's a believer. Kadarius Toney, he likes him at $4,000. Dallas against the Giants. You can tell he's kind of a Giants or a Dallas fan. Tyler Boyd versus Green Bay, which is a great play. Stephon Diggs at Kansas City, and Nick Chubb against the Chargers. Joe, who are you lining up this week?
So I'm with Coach on Dax. He had 4 touchdowns last week, and as much as I hate the Cowboys, with a healthy Dak, they're relevant. They're very relevant, and they're going to put up a lot of points this week. We talked about Eckler earlier. He's in for 77. I love getting a number 1 running back for less than $8,000 on FanDuel. That always feels like a win. Damian Williams going to take. You got to start playing the injury card. No Montgomery, unfortunately, for the Bears at Las Vegas. Got to say Williams is going to get the touches. How many points will he get? Don't know, but if he gets 10 to 12 at 5,800 as your RB2 or RB3, in my case, you're doing all right. DJ Moore, 7,900 home against Philly. That is a juicy matchup. No reason to think Moore doesn't keep on doing what he's been doing. Mike Evans, 7,000 home against Miami. That's just going to be a disaster game for Miami. And then Randall
Cobb. It's going to be bad.
It's going to be really bad. That's going to be really, really bad. And then Randall Cobb, 5,500 at Cincy. Look for him to get those red zone targets, get in the end zone. Jared Cook for the Chargers. He had a lot of targets last week. He had a really nice game. Home against Cleveland, 5,200. Saquon Barkley, 7,800 at the Cowboys on that artificial turf. I feel like he's going to have another fast game. And then being able to kind of not go over 8,100 for anybody on my roster, which isn't normally the way I go. It does allow me to get that Patriot defense in, who is the most expensive defense of the 1 p.m. main slate, as they're at Houston. And, you give up 19 to the Bucks. I'll play against Houston for sure.
I love it. Did you say Saquon Barkley?
Saquon Barkley.
Because we're riding that wave with Saquon. I love it. And your proof is in the pudding. You've even got him in your lineup. One thing about Austin Eckler is that guy is so engaged with the fantasy community that when that guy scores a touchdown, I get happy. I mean, I don't care if he's even in my lineups, in my DFS, which he isn't a lot because I've always been a huge Eckler guy. But man, when I see that guy score touchdowns, I get way happy because I know he's going to be on Twitter going, that was for you guys. And he's like the only player in the NFL that I feel like
embraces
has that
fantasy.
kind of engagement. Yeah. I mean, I think there's even Eckler's Edge on that Liz Loza show. She had him on there with Justin Herbert. How cool is that?
He's given away signed merchandise for anybody each week who has him in their lineup and wins their game. You send a picture of it to his Twitter, and he's picking random winners each week.
Yeah, dude,
that's
cool
awesome.
Is Austin Eckler? How cool is that guy, man? That's got to be
my
favorite.
Tell me that doesn't improve
player.
his merchandise sales. That's genius. I can't believe more players aren't doing that. I really can't.
We got Dak is going to need a parrot for his new peg leg. Logan Ryan engaged. I love it, and especially Logan Ryan, man. Logan Ryan's a badass. And I believe, if I remember right, let me just look something up here real fast.
While you do that, speaking of just because defense, you had Gilmore this week going to Carolina, who already had a strong defense. And then what do we have? Jalen Smith going to the Packers.
Yeah, wow, that was pretty crazy, huh? Jalen Smith getting released was pretty crazy. Gilmore was huge to me. I mean, I just can't believe what happened on there, but I think that the Patriots might be onto something there.
Maybe, but I'll tell you, if he gets on the field this year for that Carolina team for a 6th-round pick, and Smith is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Packers too. So 2 good moves, but the Packer move, Jalen Smith, again, this is just, what else do you want, Aaron? And what would you like for dinner?
Right. And what do you want for dinner? Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. We got Jeff Machia saying, would you roll the dice with Atlanta defense in London versus the Jets?
No. Luke Wilson, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week, coming out party, got the win against Tennessee. That London game is always weird and funky. I wouldn't touch a ton from that London game in general, in my opinion.
I would, however, be inclined to do the opposite with Atlanta having no receivers showing up to that game. I feel like Atlanta might actually be, New York Jets might actually be a viable play, because all the Jets have to do is really stop Cordarrelle Patterson, and then they've got a bunch of practice squad guys after that. So I feel like Atlanta might be a sneaky little play there. Although I'm with you 100,000,000% that I try to avoid everything I can with the London game. if it isn't Jacksonville, because Jacksonville for some reason just tears it up in London. Yeah. But that's about it. You know, everything else always seems to be upside down. It's like that's just too early for players. Although, man, do I love me some 9 o'clock in the morning football.
Oh my God. Phenomenal. It's phenomenal. The wife's not going to like it, but that makes it even better.
That does, yeah. Anytime we can be a thorn in their side, it's a payback, I think. So
yeah. I will say, you know, I'm just looking through, and I've always been a guy to pay up for quarterback. Like, I just want to know I'm going to get my 20 to 30 from QB and not have to worry about it. But you're really getting to the point. Like, Darnold's only 7,600. Kirk Cousins, who's been over 20 almost every game this year, 7,500. Daniel Jones, 7,400. So you really are getting to that point where, you know, David Carr, 71. You don't have to pay the 8,500 or the 9,000 for Mahomes and Allen anymore, I don't think. And people who know me will know that that's different than how I've usually been, but you're really getting that second tier of quarterbacks who are starting to put up legit numbers this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the difference is like 20 to 25 points usually, you know, I mean, like not like total, but I mean, like the Darnold out there getting 25 and then Mahomes getting 30 or something like that. Yeah. You know, I mean, so you're really not paying down much for the value that you're getting and the expected value that you're getting. Man, Darnold's just been a beast this year, and Carolina's looking really good. I don't think that they're going to go deep or anything like that, but you can see that organization turning things around, and anybody who's got Christian McCaffrey has a really, really good chance to win.
Yeah. It's crazy with quarterbacks real quick too, because like my thing with running backs is like, to me, fantasy wise, I don't have time for, and that's why I said the thing about Chubb earlier, these backs who aren't catching balls from a fantasy perspective. I just feel like you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball when you take a Chubb over an Eckler, to be completely honest. But now it's even happening with quarterbacks. Like, you know, and I know Brady and Stafford are having very nice fantasy years, but the rest of the guys who are having very good fantasy years, Darnold, Kyler Murray, they're Josh Allen, because he scores a lot of touchdowns, they're all guys who can at the least get in the end zone with their legs, if not go for 40, 50, 60 rushing yards a game.
Right. Right. Yep. You got this. It's become the dynamic in the NFL. You know, if you don't have a running quarterback, you're behind. You're not, you're no longer in the game. A couple of weeks ago, Derrick Henry had the most points I've ever seen in a game.
That was the Jets,
Derrick Henry is no joke, man. Derrick Henry is just tough this year, man. He's tough every year, but this year, like when it gets cold is when Derrick Henry really, really, really succeeds too. So, boy, if we're getting this in the fall, I cannot wait to see what we get in the winter. And Jeff says, Zach Wilson actually had himself a pretty decent outing last week. I think Zach Wilson can keep it going.
And I said,
I don't understand. He had a really tough schedule the very first 3 weeks. So, I mean, you gotta give him some credit. I think he opens it up against Atlanta. Although, again, I'm not touching anything in that game except maybe the Jets defense, because I cannot stand London fantasy.
Yeah,
it's just it's a different ball game.
One nice thing for Wilson that should make him even more impactful now is he's got Crowder back, and people just love sleeping on Jamison Crowder, but the son of a bitch can catch the ball. He gets a lot of targets, and he's consistent if he can stay on the field. So that's going to help them.
He's like Jarvis Landry, right? He's like another Jarvis Landry, but a Jarvis Landry that can actually stay on the field and stay healthy in most cases, this year being the exception, obviously. Okay, guys, well, that's going to wrap it up for us. Make sure you go to patreon.com/toilets to titles, toiletstotitles.com, @toilets to Again, go Google us. If you see toilets and you're buying toilets, you're in the wrong place. It's going to be Toilets to Titles. You can follow us at Dirty Jobs. Where can they find you at, Joe? Why don't you tell them?
At 2 Tickets to Fantasy.
Excellent.
And wherever you listen to your local podcast.
There you go. Spotify, Podbean, wherever it might be.
Apple, Alexa. Ask Alexa.
Ask Alexa. Ask Alexa for Joe, and she'll hook it up.
There it is. I'll be there.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody. And you guys have yourself a good night. Let's win some money. Let's all eat, as Coach always says. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Joe. And have a good night.